Hey guys, welcome to the Clayfoot Farm Show. This is how to make a coconut house for the aquarium, version 2.0. And before we jump in, I wanted to tell you a few things. You can expect to see a broad spectrum of videos come from this show, and part of that spectrum is fish keeping. However, most will relate to homesteading or farming, for example, aquaponics or aquaculture. I originally had made this video 2 years ago in my apartment with an iPhone. The audio is horrible and the editing is not very good either, but I think it's a good idea, so I'm going to make a new version. And I know it goes without saying, if you do any projects, do them safely as possible. And if you're not comfortable using a knife or machete or something like that, don't use it. Use something else or have somebody help you out. All right, down to business. First, you're going to need a coconut. You can usually find one for around $3 to $5 at most grocery stores. There are many different ways to open coconuts out there, and I encourage you to check out some videos on how to do that. The way I open it in this video is definitely not the best way. I use a hammer and chisel, but that's what I had and it worked for me. The way you open your coconut will probably be different from somebody else because it really depends on what tools you have and how you want the coconut to look once you crack it open. So quickly, I'm going to go over some tools, but remember that you can be creative with this. You will need some sort of puncturing tool. You can use an ice pick, a screwdriver, or a drill. You will need a way to crack or cut open the coconut. You can use a hammer, a handsaw or a power saw, a machete, the back of a large knife, or even a rock. Then you will need something to get the coconut meat from the shell. I used a knife. You could use a spoon or some kind of object to pry it apart. Again, this depends on how you open your coconut. Alright, let's get that thing cracked open. Step number 1, removing any fibers you don't want on the coconut. Now if you're like me, you're just going to leave the fibers on there, maybe pick a few of the long ones off with your hand. But I do believe it looks a lot better that way. But if you wanted to, you could sand it down and have it smooth. It's really up to you. Step number 2, drain the coconut water. I used a Dremel tool with a drill bit for this, but you could use a hammer and a screwdriver, and you're going to want to make at least 2 holes in where the eyes are. Also, this is a point where I started some water to boil, just enough to cover the halves of the coconut. Step number 3, cracking open the coconut. For making a coconut aquarium house, probably your best method would be to use some sort of a handsaw and score a line around the coconut where you want it to break, and then use a machete or the backside of a large knife, and while holding the coconut in your hand, strike the coconut around where you made the score mark. You may want to saw it all the way through with a handsaw or use some sort of a power saw to get that perfect edge, but for me personally, I like the crack to look better. Step number 4, heating or cooling to help loosen the meat from the shell. In this video, I boil the 2 halves of the coconut, which may not be the best method. Boiling works just fine, but it's not good if you want to keep and use the meat. I have also used the oven and the microwave, but my logic was by boiling the coconut, it will release some of the tannins before going into my tank. You can also deep freeze the coconut and then crack it open, and the meat will be in one solid ball. I haven't tried this yet, but it looks like it might destroy the shell. Step number 5, removing the meat from the shell. This may be the most difficult step, but don't worry, I have a tip for you, and it's not in this video. When you are scoring the meat, before you try to pry it out, score it in shapes of triangles to where the point is facing inside the coconut. This way you can pry out these pieces easily, and you probably won't have flying shrapnel like I did. Last but not least, the final step. Step number 6, rinse all the coconut residue off of the shell and put it in your tank. And yes, it is perfectly safe to use in your aquarium. I have had a couple in a tank that has been going for 4 years. And though I've had fish die of old age, I haven't lost any fish that I know of directly to the coconuts. The coconut will release some tannins into your water. This is not something that you should really worry about. It's much like driftwood, just on a much smaller scale. Here's a cool trick you can do if you have some aquarium moss. If you don't have moss, you can have it shipped for under $10 to your house. It doesn't take much light to grow, and you can attach it to your coconut with a rubber band or string, and then once it anchors itself, you can take the string or rubber band off, and you got a cool little moss covered coconut. There's many ways to be creative. I've actually made a coconut where I drilled out 2 large holes. It was kind of difficult, but I used a knife and got all the meat out of there, but it made a cool little house. If you did it right, you could probably make a birdhouse too. Well, that's it on coconut houses. Thanks so much for watching. And if you like this video more than the last one, hit that little like button down there. And if you didn't like the video, let me know and I'll try to make it better in the future, or try to make the next one better in the future. If you want to see more videos like this on fish keeping, aquaculture, aquaponics, homesteading, farming, chickens, all kinds of stuff, please subscribe to the channel. We also have a website, clayfootfarm.com. There you can find links to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Click on this picture for a video I bet will teach you something you didn't know about raising chickens. Have a great day. And if you have an aquarium, don't forget to use it for what it's there for, peace and relaxation.